So I've got all my pieces now laid out. They're not all the same scale at all, which is not a problem. I'll let the layout command actually fix that for me, which I'll show you how to do in just a minute. But first thing I want to do is go ahead and I'm going to hide the eyes for now and just not deal with them. But I want to go ahead and mirror this over so I have both sides. I don't want this to share UV space from left to right. I just wanted to make it easy to create one side and get the UVs for free for the other side. And when we lay them out, I want them to be laid out separately so that I can, if I wanted to put different tattoos on each arm or have a variation in what the hair looks like, I can do that. This is one way that you might save texture space when you're doing something for gaming, though, is just mirror left to right like this. So this is definitely a good way to save some texture space. But in this case, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror geometry. I'm going to mirror that -x. I'm going to merge vertices. Go ahead and do it. And it looks like my mesh is not exactly aligned on center, so let me go ahead and do that. Select the center border edge here. And in this case, I don't want to select that piece. I just want everything that's supposed to be directly on the center. So go ahead and make that selection, and then I'm going to bring this back to show you over here in the tool settings. Let me just go ahead and pull up the tool settings. Not in my window there. I want to make sure my move axis is set to world. I want to make sure retain component spacing is turned off. And then from the front view, for example, I'm going to go ahead and hold X down and then move it, and it snaps onto the grid. So this way I get a perfect line there. And now if I run that command again, mirror geometry, again everything's the same, run the mirror, I don't have any problem, everything worked fine. Right now what we're seeing is a texture seam, but there's one more thing that I need to make sure over here. Under the mirror operation, make sure that your pivot is actually dead center. Sometimes Maya will shift this off one way or another. And then make sure you change your merge threshold. I'm not sure why this isn't part of the options for the window for this, but you can't. Typically, I'd like to make my merge threshold something really small, something like 1,000th instead of 1/10, because otherwise, if you have a slightly smaller scale model, things will start getting merged together all over the place, and you'll end up with a real mess. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my texture border edges, and that way I can actually see what my mesh looks like. Let me just get this a little larger, and I can see that there are no cuts in the model. The model actually looks fine. So now I'm ready to do the UV part of this. So back over here, and now you can see that actually the UV shells are showing purple, which means basically there's one red and one blue in here. The blue one, let me just show you. I'll make one selection and move that. So this one is our original side, and it's facing out. So the normals are, the normals of the UVs are aligned with the normals of the face out here. And in here we're looking opposite. So you can see that this doesn't make any sense that I would have two sides of a face that would be the same like this. This is good if you want to stack them to share space, but in this case we don't. We'd want this piece to actually be flipped. And the layout command will actually do that automatically, but I might want to seam this thing up anyway. So I'm going to turn my seams back on, and I'll take a look at what this is going to do. If I were to seam this thing up, it's going to be adding a ton of distortion across here. You can tell by how far these things are pulled apart. So that would definitely add a lot of distortion into this model, which I could distribute throughout the rest of the UVs going around this, and maybe make it a reasonable shell. But really all it's going to do is make it a little bit easier so I don't have to seam this up down the middle. It's probably not going to work in this particular case. I'll try it just so you can see what happens here. And I don't want it to actually do that inside the mouth. Alright, so I want to select from here to here, from here to here, and it'll select that edge for me, and then I'm going to go ahead and move and sew that. Let's see what just happened there, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing down here. I'm just going to make this edge selection so it doesn't accidentally drop my selection there. And I actually don't even need to be careful. I don't know what I'm doing. this only cares about border edges, so I just need to make sure I don't have extra border edges selected. So something like that looks like it's going to work out just fine. Make sure I have all those border edges selected, and then just do a move and so on that. It looks like everything should be good through here. It's a little odd though, the way that was closing up here. Something really weird is happening here where they're crossing over each other. Oh, I see what it is. Because of where the seam is, it's actually the adjacent pieces crossing over there. So you can see here what that's done is it creates an incredible amount of distortion through that area, which I'll try to see if Maya is able to resolve. So it's not going to do it like that, so let me just try it with a constraint on. Try a horizontal constraint there. And that did a better job. That doesn't look as bad. It's still heavily distorted here, gets way smaller through here. I think in general this is just going to be a much more distorted look than what we had before with the cut. In this case, I would still need to come back in here, relax this a little bit, and then unfold it one more time. This business here, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at right now. Let me take a look and see a little bit closer what I'm dealing with here. So it looks like it's the inside of the mouth, which really shouldn't have been in here anyways. I think what I did was I must have gone one step too far in grabbing the faces to seam up. So this is not supposed to be connected anyway. So I'm just going to select that there and make sure that's cut. And grab this UV and then move this out of the way. This is not really supposed to be in consideration for part of the face anyways. So you can see that's a lot easier to tell what's happening, and I'm not going to have a seam to deal with, but I do have to deal with a little bit more distortion. So this is just some of those places where you have to make a decision. Is it better to have a seam across here and have to fix that afterwards, which is really not that hard of a job, or is it easier to have a shell that's really clear to understand with no UVs. In this case, I'm going to leave it like this. I don't think the distortion's all that bad, and this is something that would be really easy to paint on. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here, and I'm going to continue doing this same thing. I'll probably seam this up around the front and potentially the back as well. And I'll just fix up a few more things, and I'll kick it right back off just before I do the layout command. So I did that to the belly and the back, and that's really the only pieces that I saw that really could probably use it. You can see that I actually added quite a bit of distortion here. It's a lot of pull that's happening right in that area. So I can go in and try to clean that up a little bit. I'm guessing that it's not something that I can clean up easily, otherwise the algorithm would have figured it out. But I can play around with this just a little bit as far as distributing that distortion. So maybe I'll try something like that. That's definitely pushing some of that distortion up here, and just try to even that out a little bit. It looks like I would need to give this thing a little bit of a squeeze through here to let those spread out a little bit, and that's going to add a little bit more distortion out here. In fact, it might be enough that it's distorting significant enough that I don't want to do that too much. Something like that's probably okay. Just trying to get a little bit better balance of distortion. This is distorted again, as you can see. His little booty has some pretty big checkers compared to his upper back, but again, not really a huge deal. I feel like this is okay as far as the layout goes. So really all I did was the face, the front, and the back, which you can see we have some serious problems in terms of scaling here. So I'm going to go ahead and run the layout command here, and I'll need to make some changes after this, but this is typically a good start. So with the layout command, there's some options you want to look for. I want to prescale this to the world, which basically means analyze the face. The area of the face over here should be proportional to this one in UV space. So it's just going to check shell to shell and make sure that the amount of space they occupy in the 3D space is equal to what they occupy in the 2D space. So I want to make sure prescale to world is on. I want it to flip reverse. This way I'm going to get all my red ones will turn blue. That's what I want. I want it to lay out into region, uniform scale. I don't want it to mess up my UVs by scaling something to fit and stretching it out. I don't want it to stack at all. In fact, at the top it should be up here non-overlapping, so it won't stack anyways. And then I'll allow this to rotate for best fit. In some cases, you don't want it to rotate at all because you don't want things to come off of a straight line. The more diagonal things are, the more alias they tend to look. In this case, I don't really have anything aligned yet anyways, so where I need something to be straight, I'll straighten it out myself. So I'll let Maya try to pack it in the best it can. And then the shell spacing should be the end size that you plan on using. So in this case, I'm probably going to use a 2048 map for this guy. It's not for a game or anything, so 2048 is pretty reasonable. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow Maya to stack the shells a little closer together. So that should be it. I'll just say layout UVs, and it will move ahead. And as you can see, it will lay them out where it tries to make the squares as uniform as possible. In this case, I'm seeing some relatively substantial distortion in places where I expected it. Across this nose, in the belly down here, it's definitely distorted. Along this arm, it never really got fixed at the very back here. But I think this is probably reasonable enough. I don't have any kind of overlapping. Everything looks like it's reasonably done. You know, I definitely have some distortion, but as I'm trying to work on this, if I get to an area where I have trouble with distortion, I can come back and clean it up. I think this is probably a good enough start for what I need to do on this guy. I'm not going to put him in like a Where's Waldo striped shirt. If I was, then I would need to really make sure that I had very, very clean UVs across here. Otherwise, seaming that up is going to be a bear. That's funny. I didn't mean to do that. But at any rate, this is probably fine for what I'm going to do, which is just going to be, paint him black and white and have a little hair texture on him or something like that. So typically, once it lays out, this is just a start. Maya's pretty good about packing things into a layout, but most of the time you can be more efficient than Maya will be in terms of fitting everything in. Like this is a little quirky to me that these are right on top of each other. Meanwhile, there's all this space over here. Now we are going to need some of this space for putting the eyes, but the eyes are going to be pretty small comparatively. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the eyes back. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick layout on these. I'm going to press Shift I for Isolate Select. And then I really don't need these to be complete eyeballs. I just need them to be most of the eye. I don't want to accidentally see an empty spot of the eye. So to do this, I'm just going to select the back vert here. I'm going to press Control F11. That'll convert to faces. And then Shift period. And that'll expand my selection out. And I'll just expand that out. I don't want to come all the way up to center. This is my center. I want to be able to rotate past center by at least a span or two. So something like this is probably fine. I'll just go ahead and pull that out. And as you can see, for painting an eyeball, this would be a little bit weird. It wouldn't actually be awful because probably I would just keep it where this part here, which is the spikes along the top, this is going to be black, and then this one would be whatever color the eye was, and the rest of it's going to be white or something. But these things will be relatively easy to do a different way. For instance, on this one, I'd be fine just doing a projection straight in from here. That'd look fine. So I'll just do that with Create UVs based on camera. Just make sure that I'm not creating a new UV set. Say OK. This one will actually have some overlap. Again, it's an eyeball. It's all going to be white anyway, so I'm not terribly concerned about the kind of overlap that I'm seeing there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to try to line this up where this line basically gets straight from the front to the back. So I'll just line it up like that, and then I'll rotate so that it's as good as I can on the vertical line as well. Something like that's probably probably good enough. So I'll just create UVs based on camera. Get those guys here. I would have had the benefit of the scale, and in fact I can still do that. Let me just run the layout again. I'll just have the eyes selected and go ahead and run that layout again. And then it'll throw the eyes in here and fit everything the way it thinks they should fit. Okay. But at any rate, with the eye laid out the way I just laid it out, it's pretty easy to understand how to paint an eye on here. You know, it's going to look like an eyeball would look. And again, this is just going to wrap white across here, so I don't really care. This is going to look good. A little bit of overlap back there is fine. Okay, so I've got my basic layout, and now I just want to look at this like a puzzle and try to figure out what could I stack better, or what could I lay out in a way that I understand more. Like right now, it's clear to me where the head is, the chest, and the back, the feet, but I don't know if this is the left or the right foot, or actually I can tell that as well. Excuse me, given this layout. But what I tend to like to do is lay things out in an order that makes a lot of sense. So up here, can't really tell. These are getting flipped around. These are the legs. I can't tell which one's which. That's one thing I like to do with layout, is along with making it more efficient, is lay it out in a way that I'll understand it a little bit better. So in this case, this was just a random thing that Maya decided to do. This is going to be easier for me to paint in this orientation. So I'm just going to go ahead and set it to that orientation. I'm not going to do any scaling. I'll do all my scaling to everything at once. So now I want to go ahead and start grabbing these pieces and lay them out in a way that I understand. So I want to get the top of this, so it's probably this edge here. So that's going to be the top, and I'll just rotate that so that's actually the top. And then I'll start stacking these things where they're supposed to go. So I use the layout command just to get that prescale world, get a basic layout, see what you get out of it, and then start making changes from there. So for the foot here, I want to rotate this. I'll probably have to reorient things to fit them in efficiently in the end, but I'm just going to set them up like this for now. The body here, I could potentially make the body connect at one of the sides. You see that the sides are basically lined up anyways. It just add a little bit more distortion, and I might as well do that. It will give me a little less flexibility in terms of working along here. If I need to disconnect them, I will, but one less seam to take care of with minimal distortion added for that. So I'll continue just moving these pieces around until I get what I'm looking for. Okay, so this is this hand over here. I'm not sure what I'm looking at there. The top of the head. So this one actually should have been seamed up as well. No reason why I would leave a seam here. This would lay out just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Select out those edges. Again, you don't have to be really careful. It doesn't care about interior edges like this. Just move and sew that. And then it actually looks like, now that would probably add substantially more distortion if I sewed that on. I was going to say typically what people will do is sew these back on, but in this case, if I did that, you can see it would actually add quite a lot of distortion through here, which is already distorted anyways, but oh, why not? Let's just see what it does. So actually I'm just going to do all of those. We'll see how this seams up here. Definitely added a bit more distortion through there. I'm going to try and see if I can get some of that to come out. I won't do the whole head here, but just like those pieces, grab the smooth and tell it to unfold that a little bit. So that definitely helped distribute the distortion pretty well. That looks a lot better. Definitely still have distortion in around here on the nose and stuff like that. Just take a look and see what I can get out of this unfold in here. See if I can make anything happen that's a positive thing. Not too much. That's just distortion because that shape doesn't stack well without cuts into 2D. So it's just really having to stretch to make that happen. But this looks pretty good, and that allows me to make the head basically one piece. And now I can stack the ears up here. So here are the ears. Again, left and right, it just makes sense for you to try to stack these things in a way that you won't have to guess what's what. Just put things where you know is on the left, so it's the left. And again, I'll have to rearrange all this in just a minute. Okay. This looks like this is the inside of the mouth, which is going to have the be basically the same thing as everything else that I've been doing. I'm going to just seam it up along these edges. And for the inside of the mouth, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter at all, but it doesn't matter much. So the distortion that happens on this guy, whatever it turns out like, I think I could probably live with it. So I'm not even going to bother looking at that. Basically, it's going to be a color in there. I'm not going to do any shots that zoom in the inside of the mouth or anything. So you can see how moving these pieces around is just going to make it really clear how things are actually oriented according to the world. Then I'll start trying to stack these things back in without doing any kind of scale operation. Again, my Maya runs a little slow due to my graphics card when I'm dealing with UV stuff. So, okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just go ahead and center this up so I can run stuff down the left and right of it. And I have to remember that I still have eyes that I need to add to this layout, but I'm going to go ahead and do this without the eyes for now and figure out where to put the eyes a little bit later. I'm going to make sure this foot fits in here okay, and then I'm going to balance the amount of space between those things. Again, I don't want it to be right at the edge of another shell, and I don't want it to be right at the edge of the map either, because the edge of the map tends to get a little bit smudgy too. So that looks fine. So I have adequate space around all these things. That's one thing you're looking for. So it looks like I'm going to probably have to split my hands away from the arms a little bit here. There's not quite enough space to leave all of this the way I have it laid out here. Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll put the arm and the hand and the thumb here, and then I'll move the arm up a bit. So let's see if that has enough space there. I guess I should have done that opposite. Sort of been being a little dumb here. Up here like this, and then I'll grab both these guys and just, there we go. Again, keeping away from that edge where you can. So that's going to fit fine, and I think I'll understand what's going on there. If I have a little bit of space, I'll make use of it, which it looks like I actually probably will have a little bit of space at the end of this. Let's see here. This one I have more space coming out this way, but I have a feeling I'm going to want to collapse some of this space down so I can make the whole thing a little bit bigger. So let me go ahead and just select both of these guys. Something like this. And then move this up. I want to be consistent though. I just noticed that I was moving the arm down, and I want the hand to be closest to the thumb over here. So just redo this slightly. And I could definitely probably benefit from a little bit of a rotation here. Okay, my right click just became my left click. There we go. The mouth. Don't care too much about the mouth. Again, it's sort of not a big deal in this case. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the eyes in by just selecting them here. So I want to put this eye on this side and this eye on this side. That to shell command is very handy. As you can see, I use it all the time. Now it also looks like I could probably compress this down at least a bit more. I'm looking at the grid here and I try to get a sense of if I can make everything fit into this inner, like just at a 0.9 area. That would compress things up a little bit tighter in here, and that's a better use of texture space. In this case, since we're pre-rendering, it doesn't make that much difference. I don't have to get it absolutely perfect, but I think I can make this tighter without too much trouble. So I'm going to just start nudging things around a little bit and see how I could fit them in here. So that's the leg. I have a good bit of extra space over here that I could use for this stuff, but I might just try to stack vertically so it'll be hand and then the thumb and then the arm, and I'll put maybe both eyes on one side or something like that. We'll just move these things around and see what we can do. So this is where it turns into a little bit of a puzzle. Again, I'm just going to sort of look at this and see. I want to try to make everything stay inside the 0.9s. And obviously, if you don't have very much stuff, if it's really open in here, then you can try to do it to a smaller grid line or something like that. In this case, 0.9 is probably going to be about the best I'm going to get out of this with this current layout. I'm not saying I couldn't possibly do anything better. I think it's possible. This could be laid out a little better, but this is looking okay to me. Okay, so I'm going to move this guy up here. That'll give me room for my thumb. I'm still going to stay within the 0.9 on both sides, and I'll still be able to follow what I've got going on here layout wise. And then I'll try to take the ear. In this case, that really doesn't matter. The orientation of this thing doesn't matter very much, so I'll just try to get this oriented where the tall part fits down into that little groove. Again, everything's still staying in the 0.9 area. A little bit more. Running out of space for my eyeballs here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to take advantage of this space here and push this up in here. Again, I still have my thumb and my hand in relative proximity to each other, so I'll still remember what's what, even though I'm changing the order of them a little bit here. So it looks fine. I have a little bit of trouble getting both eyes into this layout, it looks like. But then again, they are eyeballs, and the left and right of these eyes is likely to be exactly the same. So I'm going to take advantage of that and just stack them. Instead of trying to relay everything out on this thing, I'm just going to stack them up, and then the eyes will actually be the same. Looks like my scale is very slightly different too, which I didn't pay attention to. That looks good. Okay, so now I have everything packed into a smaller layout, which that means what I want to do is select everything, which is going to take a second because my computer is super slow with UVs. And then I want to scale it from probably this lower corner, 0, 0. I'll just scale it out to fill here. And we'll just wait for this. There we go. So press R, D to get the temporary pivot point move. Works exactly the same over here. And then just scale that up. Okay, so this way I'm making a more efficient UV layout because I'm using the space. I'm not leaving as much space in between everything. This could probably still be compressed down some more. I'm not sure how much more, but because I'm not really trying to squeeze the ever-loving crap out of this thing, I'm going to leave it like that. I think hopefully that gets the idea across. You want to be as efficient as you can, but you don't have to go crazy trying to get every little crevice out of here. There's always going to be gaps in a UV map. Okay, so that's basically how you do a UV layout. And I'll cover the rest of this going over to Photoshop and that sort of stuff in the next class.